Welcome everyone to this live stream. Today's topic is, why do bad things happen to good people? Right? Um, we're gonna wait, but there's the question. We're gonna wait for some people to get here, and then we'll begin answering that question. Oh, there's one person here. Who are you? Who are you? Hey, Cyber. Cyber, I see you. You got popcorn on deck. You're awesome. um, let's start. You see, it's not that it's good things or bad things, good people, bad people. It's the mind of the person, right? Where you grow up, whatever has influenced you at that time. So, dealing with things like abandonment, dealing with things like neglect, they have a far reaching effect into your adult life. So, when you start to say things like, well, how did I end up there in the hospital? Like, what did I do? Where did I go wrong? The first thing we think is, oh no, I'm doing something wrong. And this is why I always say, we don't judge the self, but we examine the self. There's a reason why you have to examine. If you take the time to examine the self, you'll begin to see what you're doing. And the way to see it is to look at the effect. So, being in a place where you're supposedly cared for, hospital, right? But what was the cause? What was the trigger? In my case, family was a trigger. I'm still learning a lot about my family and where I came from and how I see myself in certain aspects, where you see yourself as valuable, you see yourself as worthwhile or worthy. Has that always been the case? I'm still working my way through that. And sometimes these things show up because you're on the same. It's not that it was time for you to learn the lesson. It's that you are now on the same frequency as this thing. That's what it is. Remember, it's always in terms of vibration. So where are you now? That's why I say it is always that predominant thought, like Neville Goddard says, the predominant thought. So if you think, oh, nobody cares about me, nobody cares if I live or die, I'm useless, I'm worthless, I don't have anything to offer. You might not think that you're thinking it all day, every day, but it gets to the point where you don't have to think it anymore. You just live from there. Neville Goddard calls it a state. And so, as I say all the time, they're hidden, but they're so obvious. They're hidden because that's where you live. You know your address, right? You know your address. You've memorized it. That's where you live. You can find your way there from anywhere. You'll know where you need to go. But that's how we live our lives. From that place of, it doesn't matter how many qualifications I have, I'm not as good as that person. It doesn't matter that I may have traveled the world, I'm not as good as them. They have more book learning than me. They have more this than me. They have more that than me. You see, that's the place, wherever it is you're living from. If that means that's the same frequency as, think about it for a minute. If you feel as though you're neglected, right? Or you grew up hearing, well, you've always been sickly. Not me. I grew up, I was always as healthy as a horse. Always. Always. But I can look back and tell you two pivotal things that happened. Right? All because of where I was living from in my mind. Feeling inadequate. Not having someone to come alongside you and say, you're my baby. I do love you. Not having that, developmentally, it does something to you. It does. Science is now telling us this. Parts of the brain don't develop the way they should, or or they're halted, so on and so forth. So we end up living our lives from that predominant place. And whatever that thing is, if you say, nobody cares for me, right? Nobody cares for me. The minute you start, what did they tell you? Stress does what? Lowers immunity. You lower immunity, you're vulnerable to pathogens, are you not? So where are you going to end up? You see, do you hear what I'm saying? Hello, Nick Skywalker, I see you. So it has to do with, where are you living predominantly from in your mind? If your space in your mind is one of inadequacy, and here's the kicker. I was watching Dr. Joe Dispenza, and after he had been run over, at a marathon, 6 crushed vertebrae, he's laying in the hospital, and the doctor says, yeah, well, you're going to need surgery to repair that. Right? And he was like, no, I don't. I can do this myself. And I'm like, okay, what? Where and how was he raised? Like, how did he have that mentality? That's because if you look at it, it's not that he was bold and courageous. That's where he lived from in his mind. But then you ask the question, how did he put himself in a position to be run over in the first place? Right? So it's like, so what I'm going to say is this: he's at a marathon, because it'll hopefully make sense to you as to why things happen, because we say good people, bad people, right? He's at a marathon. It's a crowd of people. It's a crowd. So whatever that crowd is doing there, and you're in the midst of that crowd, it's not that you drew it to, you're in the crowd. So whatever the predominant thing is, if it's kind of chaotic or, kind of messed up in that crowd, there's more of them than just you. So the cumulative effect of their energy influences where you are. So it's not that he was a bad person or he did something bad. That's why I say, when I pose this question, why do bad things happen to good people? This is the question that people ask all the time. It has to do with the vibration. Where are you? Where are you living from in your mind? That's one part of it. And then where are you? Physically, where are you? Does that make sense, Cyber? Because I knew we were going to have to address that question, because you weren't the only one asking it. I was asking it, right? And a lot of the times, things that we have going on in our lives, because that's where we're living from. If you're living from the place of woe is me, nobody loves me, nobody cares about me. If you're living from that place, then you're going to encounter those situations that reinforce where you live from. Your state, your home state, is what Neville Goddard calls it, right? So when it rears its head, that's our cue to say, holy cow, I feel that way about myself. Oh, I didn't know I still felt that way. That's what the situation, when you encounter something that is undesirable, that's what it's showing you. That's its job, to say, hey, what are you doing? Is this where you want to be? Do you want to keep feeling this way about yourself? Well, first you have to acknowledge that you're doing it, and you don't know it if you judge the situation. If you sit there and say, well, you see, I have to be worthless. I know all these things, but yet here I am, still in the thick of it. Well, then fine, I throw in the towel. That's judgment. But if you look at the situation, you go, wait, okay, I'm seeing the effect. Okay, let me dig a little deeper. What am I supposed to be seeing here? What is it that I have been looking at for so long that I can no longer see it? That behavior, feeling inadequate. We call it, Cyber, what is that word? We call, oh man, when you have so many qualifications, but then you still feel like a fraud. Imposter syndrome, like, you know what I mean? Think about Think about that, where that came from in someone's life. So they have all of these qualifications, yet they still feel inadequate. Why do they feel it? And the whole point is to explore. And remember, the feeling, it is always going to be facts over feelings. I had to learn this, and I'm still going through it, meaning every time I catch myself going back to what I used to do, because I've been doing it for so many years, I catch myself say, whoa, wait a minute. So it's always going to be facts over feelings. I'm just looking at the chat. How do we go about discarding those dwelling places that were ingrained in us? Facts over feelings. When you recognize that you learned how to be that way so that you could survive in your surroundings, that is the first acknowledgement. Recognize it for what it is. Oh, snap. I learned that if I behaved this way, that would happen. And why did I behave that way? Because I had to survive where I was. It's quite like, this is vicarious knowledge, because it was my old best friend at the time. Growing up with an alcoholic, you learn how to be very quiet. Because if you're not quiet, all hell breaks loose. So they've learned to move through their space quietly. Even to this day, they move through their space quietly. Not because the alcoholic is still there, but because the behavior hasn't changed with the acknowledgement of, I am no longer in danger. So cyber, that's how we discard those dwelling places that are ingrained within us. We have to acknowledge them as, holy cow, I learned how to do that so that I could survive. Well, I don't need to survive anymore. I can thrive now. And so the only reason I learned that is because it was impressed upon my subconscious mind with a strong feeling with repetition. This is how you do it, because it's the way to program the subconscious mind. Repetition with strong feeling. So if all the time you brought home your homework from school, C, look at your sister is getting B's and A's. What's wrong with you? Your D's and E's. Why can't you be more like them? So now you end up in a situation where you have to compare yourself, and now you're a grown-up. That's what you do. You compare yourself to other people to your own detriment. You don't see your own value. You don't see your own gifts. And so when you acknowledge that, when you say, wait a minute, my sister or my brother is who they are. For me, I learned how to judge myself. I learned how to question myself, because I was always questioned. Because my family was always, I'm telling you how the scenario plays out. Well, my family always was like, okay, look, we have this image to uphold. So we have smart children. You're bringing down our image. So now you feel like you always have to push to be this A student. You have to go above and beyond. You became overly fixated, right? So when you acknowledge that the behavior you learned that you're using now, if it's to your detriment, you still, whether it benefits or is detrimental, you still have to acknowledge it. Because now you can look and say, okay, I do this, and you know what? This is really beneficial to me. I'll keep it. But if you look at the other part and you say, ooh, you know, that really hurts me. That puts me in a position where I don't trust people and they don't trust me. That puts me in a position where I don't really care about people. That puts me in a position where I'm really cold. I don't want to be that way anymore. So then you acknowledge you learned how to be that way by way of repetition with strong emotion. So now when you bring out the law of polarity, where do you want to be instead? Now that's the repetitive action, new action that you do, and you do it with what the sensation that's in your body. That's how we discard those dwelling places that were ingrained in us. That's how you do it. The all is mind. The universe is a mental creation. It all starts in the mind. So that's why I say facts over feelings. Because you feel inadequate, it does not mean that you are inadequate. It just means that you heard somebody say it to you by way of, man, you're not really valuable. Or you heard by way of watching siblings get the praise and you did not. You got the reprimand. Right? So that's how come you can feel inadequate. You can feel unworthy. Remember, those are just feelings based upon a memory that you have experienced in the past. They are not facts. What are the facts? The facts are someone projected how they felt onto you. Someone projected onto you how they felt. How do you know? As within, so without. So if they're coming at you and they say, well, you can't bring shame and dishonor to the family, that's because that's where they're struggling with. They don't want to bring shame and dishonor either. So they have to hold themselves in this unnatural state. Right? Yes, Marjorie, especially in the Caribbean. I can't stress that enough, because in the Caribbean, that's usually, I can speak from there as a Barbadian because that's how I was raised. Oh, don't bring shame. Don't bring shame to your family. And for girls, that usually meant don't bring home unwanted pregnancies. That's usually what that meant. Well, don't make this family look bad. You know what I'm saying? So now you end up with this unnatural fixation on all this striving to be the best, and you're so competitive, you don't even know how to relax. And then what happens? You burn out. You have a quote unquote mental breakdown because you just can't do it anymore, you know? And those are just based on the fact of, you felt inadequate. Not because you are, it's just that you have a memory, and that's the way the memory stored in your body tells you that you felt back then. That inadequacy is a memory of how you felt back then. But because we don't change those, we don't swap those programs out for new ones that are more beneficial, we keep them and we say, well, that made me who I am today. That's what we say. That made me who I am today. Yes, things make you who you are, but you now, as a grown-up, have the ability to become who you want to be instead of who you were dictated to be prior. Does that make a little bit of sense? Let me read, because I know I can see the comments going. Marjorie is saying, in growing up, your mother ingrained in me not bringing shame to the family. Yes, and that has made me very judgmental towards people. You would have to be judgmental because you're judging you, as within, so without. So that's the thing, where they think that they are instilling in you morals and whatever. People say, well, you got to bring back shame. In some instances, sure, but not where the individual mind now begins to question its own self. Meaning, if you say, you know, I don't know that I have anything of value to bring to the table because I'm not as qualified as, I don't have this many PhDs. I don't have as many of those. I don't have that kind of training. You know what, fine, I'm nobody. I'm just going to go work at the grocery store and never be anything. Then you are questioning your own validity in the world. That's a problem. We all have things that we are good at doing because we're all expressions, right? We have things that we're good at doing that we learned how to do. But it's up to us now, when you're doing a particular action, where you question it is this beneficial to me? Or is this keeping me stuck? Is this keeping me, and you know how you do it? If you find yourself saying, man, why I always choose the same kind of relationship? Ding, 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 ding. That's a cue. That's a cue for you to say, ooh, what am I doing? What do I believe about myself here? Well, I keep doing the same thing every relationship, same type of man or the same type of woman every time. That's not a place for you to say, well, at this rate, you're going to be single forever. See, you don't have anything good to offer anybody. That's not what that's for. When you see a glimpse of yourself, that's your opportunity to say, ooh, do I like that? Does it hurt me or does it help me? If it helps me, I'm going to keep it. But if it hurts me, I'm going to dig a little deeper. Oh, I feel inadequate. I don't feel pretty. I will just take what I can get. Oh, he smiled at me, so I'll just take what I can get. Oh, he beats me. It's okay. He loves me. That's when you have to say, whoa, 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 is this thing helping me? Because if you're living from that state of inadequacy, of you think you're unlovable. And here's the thing with when we were children, right? Some parents may have said, I hate you, I wish I never had you. Some parents may have said that. Others may have not said a word, but you didn't have enough to eat. You didn't have proper clothes. You weren't properly educated. They may not have had to say, I wish I never had you, but their actions cause you to think, oh my God, I'm unwanted. See? But even though you may have grown up in a 2-parent household, you know, parents who love you, perhaps if your father or your mother wasn't there at night to tuck you in because they had to be at work, you thought, oh, they don't love me. If they did, they'd be here to tuck me in. Whereas as a child, you have no concept of bills aren't going to pay themselves. So somebody has to be at work. So it is all a matter of, that's why I say facts over feelings. Look at what happened that molded and shaped you in that way. And then go get a book, because somebody somewhere has studied this and examined things and said, okay, here's the effect of neglect. Here's the effect of abandonment. Complex PTSD, right? When you look at those things, you see the effects of them in your behaviors. So now that you can see it a little bit more clearly, you say, oh, I understand why I behave like this. Now you can employ the law of polarity to say, is that what I want to remain as? And that's why sometimes bad things look like they're happening to good people. Let me go in the chat. Hi, Empress Ella. I see you. Yes, Tekany Lickleting, huh? I get you. I hear you, my Jamaican beauty. It's true. I'm reading your comment here, Cyber. Neville says all the time, you're not the family tree, financial history, or any other history. But that's exactly it. Fact over feeling. Right? This is why when people say generational curses, you understand. Generational curses. I want you to listen to what that is, and then I'm going to read your statement again, Cyber. It doesn't matter what your family tree is. It doesn't matter what you've come out of, what your financial history is. You have the ability to change. But if there usually are anomalies, certain people who have the ability to say, for instance, my grandfather is one of those people who had the ability at the age of 8 to say, that's not my life. That's not for me. I will be like this instead. Billy Carson is another one. He looked out the window when he lived in the ghetto and he said, this is not the life for me. And look at him now. Right? My bestie, the same thing. She goes, I came out of that, but you know what? I don't need to remain there. What did they do? All they did was make up their mind where they were going to be or where they were not going to be. And I've always said that some people can do that a lot easier than others. I don't know why some people can do it. easier than others. I don't know. Some people can just, and it really is polarity, right? The desire to change is stronger than the desire to stay the same. You look at your situation, you say, no, no, this is not for me. While some others will languish in their situation, you know, because for whatever reason they languish. Are they languishing because they're lazy? No, I don't think so. I'm not quick to call anybody lazy, because you don't know where their mind is. You don't know what they have to deal with in here unless they speak it to you, right? You don't know. So some people have a much easier time of switching and pushing the vibration. What they do is neutralize it by way of law. They neutralize the swing of the pendulum and force it where they want it to go, not by brute force, but by mental. They just say, when they say that no, that's not for me, that no is so powerful that it pushes the swing of the pendulum in the opposite direction, in the direction that they want to go in. And that's why they can change on a dime. I don't know why they do it. I don't know how, but it is mental, because that's all they did. They didn't do anything differently, because he still had to work at the age of 8, cutting sugarcane and picking cotton, until he became a man. And he knew what type of man he was going to be, but he had to become a man first. He still had to go through that childhood. But he knew what type of man he wanted to be. He knew as long as he made it through childhood, he knew what kind of man he was going to be. So he didn't imbibe and drink. He didn't smoke. He didn't gamble, because he didn't want to be that kind of man. So you see, again, it is always accompanied by that action. Cyber, I remember my father telling me about the Williamson curse with apps. Well, you have to elaborate for me, Cyber, about what the Williamson curse is, because that's with such conviction. Because remember the law always, as within, so without. If you're looking for the curse, you understand, it has to materialize, because you're creating it, because that's where you're living from. You're living from the place of, oh, you know, this always happens in our family. Like with Bruce Lee. Allegedly, they had a curse where all the men died mysteriously. Right? His son did too. And you're like, wait, what? Because for so long, that thing had been passed down and ingrained in them, as within, so without. So it was only a matter of time until it materialized. Because they didn't have to live like they were under a curse because they felt like they were under one. They lived that way because that's where they lived from. It was always in, you know how you say it's always in the back of your mind? I want you to think about that. When you say, I might not think about that much more, but it's always in the back of my mind. That's the state you're living in. It's always in the back of your mind. So when you find yourself in a sticky situation, you can either judge it or examine it and change. Let's see who's here. Yes, Cyber. I kind of figured that one out when you talked about that. Yeah. Hi, K-Frame. It's good to see you. Mixed genre. It's good to see you as well. So for my experience and being there, the trigger for me, how do you say enough but not too much? Because you don't know who you're saying it to. For the longest time, I had spent my life, you could say, seeking the approval of my mother. Who doesn't want their mother's approval? You know, it depends on what kind of mother you got, I suppose. But I can't even really say I resented. Perhaps I did, but for so long, I've been trying to gain that. And always my grandfather's words are in the back of my head. That is your mother. Whether she raised you or not is irrelevant. That's your mother. That title comes with a modicum of respect. Give it, period. So that's always been in the back of my mind. So I put up with the one who wasn't raised by my mother, but I'm always the one being called on to assist. And so I ended up having this giant argument with my sister because she didn't think that I helped our mother enough. In other words, she's like, what have you done for your mother? You've done nothing for your mother. And I'm like, I'm not obligated to. I just know she's my mother because I kind of look like her, and she was a child when I was born. That much I know. So this is why you can't hide things from your body. You're in it. So walking around with that resentment, walking around with that, trying to get that approval all the time, you compromise who and what you are just because you want to be accepted, because you want to be appreciated, because you want to be loved. But the funny thing is this, it didn't matter what you did, you were never going to be. Not the way you wanted to be, not because they didn't care, but because they don't know how. As within, so without. So for me, that was a major impetus. It was a major, that argument was just so big that it weakened me enough to land me in the hospital. And still, even while I was there, my mother knew I was there, but she would message me to ask me for things, but she didn't message me to ask me how I was. And I'm like, even when I had needed assistance after surgery, it was like, really? I'm at death's door, and because you're dramatic, right? I'm at death's door and you still don't care? That's what I'm talking about. Living from that place of seeking the approval and the acceptance of the one who's supposed to give it to you. When you live from there, all the things that match that vibration is what you'll experience. So even if it means you end up in the hospital where you get mediocre care because at least somebody cares about me. Like, do you see how warped of a thinking it is? That's why I say to you, when you are faced with a situation, you do not judge the situation. You don't beat yourself up about the situation, but you examine the situation and you say, is this working for me? And if it's not working for me, what must I do? Like if you've got blight on your lime tree, it's either the blight has overtaken the tree so much that you have to kill the tree, or you can still salvage. So is the relationship salvageable, or will it continue? Remember, I can change. I've started to change as far as that relationship goes, but they have not. She's not, because God will take care of it. So I've changed, I've made changes, but she's not. So how is it going to benefit me? So that's why when I say to you, sometimes we want to hold on to things because we want to, we hold on to it because I must have this. If I don't have this, then I'm not valid. But what ends up happening is the relationship becomes parasitic. We want to call them energy vampires, right? But what ends up happening is you keep pouring and pouring and pouring out to the detriment of your own self. And at some point in your life, you must make the choice. Is your life valid enough? And unfortunately, some of us never make that choice. We stay with that longing because we stay with the feeling as opposed to fact. The fact is the law. My mother was shafted pretty much for her whole life. She had a shit life as a child. I cannot tell you, and I won't, but it was vile. How can I expect her? How can I expect her to love me? How? When she doesn't know. And it's not also that she doesn't know, it's that when I was a child, I spake as a child, I behaved as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things, which means at some point you've got to take responsibility for your own behavior, which is something she hasn't done. So then how can I keep putting my hand in the fire? So I had to make a choice. And the first time around, the doctor was rather distant and cold. Quite like my mother, actually. I was like, wait, what? For real? You? Oh, it was not a good situation. It was not fun. But I saw something. It also helps when you have a bestie who's willing to gently pat you on the forehead and say, heifer, you're killing yourself. You need to let that shit go. You know, she can say it as nice and as sweetly as she needs to, but she's telling you, you have to let this go, or it will suck all the life from you. So when you are living from that place, you're always going to have those instances. So now you have to catch yourself. You have to catch yourself. When you want to go back and say, oh, but that's my mom, I'm supposed to help. The situation hasn't changed. So you can predict the outcome by way of law. You can predict the outcome by way of law. You know exactly what's going to happen if you go there again. And on the outside, here, facts over feelings. On the outside, you begin to feel like, oh my God, I'm such a bad daughter. I'm supposed to help. I'm supposed to care. On the outside, that's what you feel like. What? They're gonna hate me? On the outside, I just want to be loved. I want to be appreciated. I want you to care for me. So I'll do what you want me to do. On the outside, because that's how you feel, because you don't want to be judged. You don't want to bring shame. You don't want to bring dishonor. So you'll do it. Those are feelings. But what are the facts? The facts are, if you continue to do the same behavior, you can expect the same result. If you're the only one who's changed or changing, doesn't matter how many people tell you that you're delusional, right? You can always predict what's going to happen. But if you change and you say, no, by way of law, how I see myself is how I will experience life. So I better start seeing myself better, or else I'm going to be in this same position. Let me read the chat. Blah, 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 blah. Mixed genre. I'll have to look that book up. The library is our friend. I've heard about that book, and it really is true, because it's the law of correspondence expanded, right? As within the mind, well, the body has to keep score. It has to keep a tally. Memories, right? Mixed genre says, the absence of a mother's love and care is so devastating for females. Yes, it is. Yes, it truly, truly is. Cyber, everybody is you pushed out is definitely inconsistent with some people in my life. Is that because you're not changing people, but attracting a new crowd that aligns with your new state? Cyber, everybody is you pushed out. So yes, when you change, your interactions with others have to match your change. You see, And the people that you're around the most. Now, I'm not necessarily around her because distance, right? But I am around her by way of phone. So sometimes the effects are more delayed because you're not in the same vicinity, right? But you are correct. Everybody as you pushed out is the law of correspondence. As within you, so without. Right? Does that make sense? Negligent mothers need to get life in. Well, now here's the thing, right? There's this popular saying going around the internet that single mothers are the demise of society. Allegedly. Now, I'm a single mom. I will tell you this. I don't go out and party. I don't drink. I don't shake my booty online. I don't do dumb things. Why not? Because you're being watched. Right? Your behavior is on display with these little eyes that are watching you. But it all has to do with the mind of the person. You listen, you can grow up in a 2-person household, mother and a father. You can grow up in that. But what if the mother is abusive, or what if the father is abusive? But you still have both parents. You still have both. It has to do with the mindset of the people raising the children. This is what it comes down to. When you understand that you encourage a child you teach it so that it understands, so that it is curious enough to want to grow and learn more. That's what you do. But you see, we are raised, my father always still says, bend the tree while it's young, or spare the rod, spoil the child. I'm like, beating doesn't teach you anything. You have to disciple a child. You have to teach it so that, because you're not going to be there with it all the time, because your child is going to grow up. So you're not going to be out there in the world with it all the time. But you have to plant enough seeds so that they say, if I do this thing, it's going to bring about this effect. Do I want that? You teach them how to choose friends. You teach them how to be a friend. So it all has to do with the mind of the person raising the offspring. Honest. Because the universe is a mental creation, as within, so without. So if you are raised by a mother who is, heaven only knows, angry all the time, beats you all the time, and what are we doing? We only ever recreate the self. I'm trying to read here. Cyber, the furnaces of affliction are shaping and molding you. Hurt people don't hurt people. They want to prevent others from experiencing what they went through. Cyber, yes, there's merit to that. But I always will defer to correspondence. It depends, because yes, on one hand, you're correct. And on the other hand, the law still stands. If that person was hurt and they say, you know what, I'm going to change my life so that I don't continue this hurt, well, then you are correct. Hurt people don't hurt people. Hurt people recognize that they've been hurt, and so they fix it and heal it so they don't continue creating hurt. That's where that is definitely merited. To say, yes, I see how I am. I don't want that from my children. I'm going to change. I'm going to put in the work and I'm going to change. Well, then, yeah, hurt people won't hurt people. But if that hurt person goes by way of feelings instead of facts to say, well, you hurt me, I'm the victim, you owe me, well, then we only recreate yourself. And then in that situation, hurt people will hurt people, right? Cyber, so her lack of mothering taught me how to be a mother. Listen, I was thrown in the deep end. But I didn't always know the law consciously. Remember this. So, but I was always a different kind of a thinker. always, because that's what they would always tell me. Oh, you don't think like the rest of us. Oh, good thing or bad thing, I don't know. That's what you don't think like the rest of us. It's just that I see the law, and using the law and applying the law, you can't help but rise to, you see, it's not my business. I can't tell her story, but I am inspired by someone. I'll leave them nameless. She didn't have a good mother. Let me just say that, did not. But the kind of mother she became is spectacular. When I look at it, I'm like, whoa, what? You had listen, all the odds were stacked against her. Put it that way. All the odds were stacked against her. And she busted through every odd there was. She was like, odds? Where? I don't see odds. And not only was she a phenomenal mother, she's also a phenomenal grandmother. You see, she broke that habitual generational behavior that she was privy to. She busted it wide open and said, that's not for me. That's not for me, and it's not for my child. And she put in the work as a young mother. She put in the work. How you know she put in the work? Look at the rest of her family. I'm gonna sip some water. So she looked at her life and she's like, what odds? There's nothing against me. Even though I'm sure she felt like it. See, facts over feelings every time. The fact was, no, this is my mindset. I saw what happened over there, and I'll be damned if I let that happen to me. Right? So I look at her and I'm just like, wow, if I could be like quarter a teaspoon of that, shoot. Yeah. Mixed genre. A female that does not get love from her mother in childhood grows up looking for love in men who are just as emotionally unavailable. She gets mistreated, used, discarded, and eventually she is damaged, all because of an absent mother. Indeed. Indeed. But by way of law, it is not a life sentence. That's what I love about the law. Even knowing that that's where I came from, the law tells me, you might have started there, but you don't have to end up there. That is why I do what I do, because we as people have come from places, oh my God, we've come from some, listen, if we could see the bruises on ourselves, we'd cringe, right? We've come from some places that are so hard and so harsh and toxic. But the law says you're not stuck there. The only thing that determines your failure or your success is how you perceive yourself to be. And if you see yourself as being valuable and worthwhile, you will begin to behave valuable and worthwhile. Thus, you will be treated with that respect that you cultivated within yourself. That's why I love the law. I take it that's why some people love the church as well, because, you know, God will wipe away all tears from our eyes, right? I grew up singing that song. God will wipe away all tears from our eyes. When we get to heaven, all sorrows will be over. I grew up with that song. But the law tells you, you don't have to sit and wait for heaven, make it. That's what the law tells you. So it doesn't matter if I want to be sensitive. It's not that what you went through doesn't matter, because it does. It shouldn't have happened to you in the first place, but it did. And the law says to you, oh, it happened. But what do you want to happen now? You have the power to change. Listen, if the law was a cheerleader with pom-poms, right? The law would be in the corner saying, you got it, you can do it. That's what the law is telling you. The law is telling you, hey, you are the champion. You are the champion. Just hold that picture of a champion and I'll show you what a champion behaves like. You begin to behave like a champion and nobody can tell you that you're not, because you are the champion. That's what the law is telling you every single day. So when I tell you facts over feelings, now this is how now you go, you get a science textbook about the brain and how it works. Remember this morning I told you, people say, oh, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. A leopard can't change its spots. Meredith has got somebody on talking about neuroplasticity. What is neuroplasticity, folks? Mentalism. Neuroplasticity. It is mentalism. It's just that the brain is the visible part. The thought is invisible. Right? The thought is invisible. The brain is visible. So when you have that persistent thought, I'm not worthy, what happens to the brain? It begins to reshape itself around what you tell it. Huh? Neuroplasticity. Like I said, the law appears to be invisible. Science is the visible portion. But I find that if we don't know the law, then the science sometimes may not make sense. So here she is talking about neuroplasticity and habits. And yes, you can change by doing these things, doing these actions, because that's how the mind works. You program. Who said it? Oh, snap. Mark Passio. He said, a child's formative years. Where's Mozinga, my resident etymologist? Formative. Listen to the word formative. What do you do with youngsters? You format them. What else do you program them? You program them. And this is why you can have sayings like the Catholic Church telling you to give me your child from 0 to 7 and you'll have a Catholic for the rest of your life, because the way you have been programmed, if you don't challenge the program, you will live under it for the rest of your life and say things like, why is this happening to me? Why do bad things happen to good people? It has nothing to do with good or bad. It has to do with the mindset. Where has it been set upon? Where has it been programmed? That's what it has to do with. So the next time, talking to me now, the next time you want to sit there and say, I have no family. Nobody cares about me. The next time I'm tempted to do that, I am sure I will remember the ambulance. Because let me tell you something. Facts over feelings. If you catch yourself sitting there bemoaning what you do not have, that means you've forgotten the law. The law is telling you, what do you mean you don't have it? You can, Heifer, you can make it. This is what the law is telling you. It says you can make it. It's not that you don't have it. You can make it. But you have to do something. You have to practice. You have to change your mind. You have to test the limit of your mind. Test the limit of what it's been taught. Yeah, but if it was that easy, everybody would be doing it. You know why everybody's not doing it? Because they don't know. They don't know that it is possible. They don't know that it is possible, because we as a species were programmed to say, from whence will my Savior come? Where is my white knight on his steed? That's what we were programmed to do. That's what we were programmed to do, as opposed to saying, whoa, 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 slow your roll, baby. What is this? I'm behaving in this way and it sucks. I don't like feeling like this and I don't like behaving like this. What would I prefer instead? Well, I want to behave like, and then you start to behave like it. Period. Let me read the chat because y'all are on fire today. Hi, Queen Marat. It is so good to see you. Oh, Master Glam, you are also here. Welcome. Mixed Genre says, if someone did not protect me in childhood, as an adult, I make zero time for them as well. I don't care if they call themselves mother or family. I block and throw away the phone and get a new one. Oh, snap. Woo! Mixed Genre. Whew. I'm learning to do the same. I am learning to do the same. This is why it is facts over feelings. The law is fact. Oh yeah, but they're supposed to love me. If I get it just right, they'll love me. As within, so without. If they do not see the value in themselves, they cannot see the value in you. That is fact. That is law. So why then will you keep going there and throwing your body in the fire and say, don't burn me this time. Don't burn me this time. What is the nature of fire? To burn. What is the nature of someone who does not know how to love? Cause harm. Oh, I can tell, Mixed Genre, that you're very militant when it comes to this. Oh, I can tell. I'm learning. Listen, I'm learning how to do that. And here's the thing. Using the law, I find, will soften the hardness and warm the coldness. I'm learning this. Because when you use the law, listen, some people are really hard to love, and some people are really hard to forgive. But when you use the law, you begin to recognize that if I think about that person and I harbor something unsavory towards them because of how they hurt me, what happens to me if I harbor that? Oh, I don't want to reap that harvest. So what will I do instead? I will simply say one thing. You know what? Peace be unto you. Do you know why? Because I want peace unto me. But if I can't give peace, if I can't cultivate peace because of how much they've hurt me, and this, oh Lord, this is the tightrope. This is the tightrope to walk when you're dealing with the law. That's why I say if you use the law, it will soften the hardness and warm the coldness. It will. Because you'll have compassion for yourself. And when you have compassion and empathy for yourself, well, as within, so without. As within, so without. Because that's one of the easiest ways of letting go. Let it go, let it go. That's one of the easy ways of letting go of the thing that has hurt you so much, so that we don't become hard-hearted and cold. Because truthfully, it is the compassion and the empathy that we've always wanted, isn't it? So let's give it to ourselves. And because you're the one who is rolling in the fragrance of compassion and empathy, well, then what must you emit? Compassion and empathy, even for those, oh, my eye is twitching, even for those who are incredibly difficult to love and to forgive. You're not forgiving because of them. You're forgiving because if you walk around with unforgiveness, who's affected by it? Woo, woo. Oh, look, is that the ambulance? You. So walk with compassion always. Whether they deserve it or not is irrelevant. Do you deserve the compassion and the empathy? Oh, this chat is on fire. Whoa, hold on. Hold on. Hi, Bree. Mixed genre says, because if you call yourself a mother, you have to be able to play that role to a degree. If someone is called pilot, he or she has to be able to play that role by flying an airplane. If you're if you're a doctor, etc., etc., etc. Oh, there's a dryer. All those roles have actions that confirm who and what they are. I see you, Bree. Cyber says, condemn the state, not the man. I find that a hard one to swallow as they choose to stay in the unpleasant state. Every man awakens in their own time, Cyber. Some awaken and some don't. But at the end of the day, Cyber, you see, that's why I don't like that word condemn either. You walk with condemnation. Somebody's going to condemn you because you've got it on the inside. Listen, the law sometimes, I'm just like, oh, you just want to be so petty, right? But the law shows you something really important. Every man is going to awaken in their own time. Every man awakens in their own time. They're going to wake up. They're going to see the error of their ways. Some may not. And that's all right. You don't have control over that. So do not take on a role that has not been assigned to you. Right? So condemn the state. I'm not a fan of that either. Just remember that every man awakens in their own time. Because if you want to be so bold, you have to remember too that at one point in our lives, we were the condemned man. But we had to come to terms with our own self in our own time. Just allow people to come to that understanding for themselves. You can't beat somebody with a law stick. You can't beat somebody with the Bible. Well, you could. You can't do any of that. You have to have enough compassion and empathy for them or yourself to know that all in your own time. They'll come in their own time, but that doesn't mean I need to be here for that. See, I'm learning this. She'll wake up in her own time, but that does not mean I have to be there for that process. I'm learning that. As much as I love you and I appreciate you, I don't have to be there. I don't have to be there. Not in the flesh, at least. But I can sprinkle love from over here. I just say, some love for you. Sprinkle, sprinkle. I can do that. And listen, if the flame is too hot for you to even sprinkle love, don't fret. You will awaken in your own time as well to the understanding that you are so valuable and so important that anytime you stop and think of somebody, if you think of them and it's like a drag down kind of feeling, you begin to recognize that that's not for you, and you release it. Right? Compassion goes a long way, especially in a world where you can't even sniff compassion. It's like, what's that? Well, it's not compassion. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just one of those things. So, yes, Master Glam, you do give them a piece of your energy by harboring the anger and the hurt. Why is that? Let's look at the law. As within, so without. The image you hold of them. So if you hear the word mother and you go, right? What happened? There's an association. So your body says, oh, that's how you feel. Okay. Let's put you in a situation, because that's the vibration, right? Nobody's putting you in it. That's just the vibration that you're on. So In order for you to look at them, you have to give them the energy. Yet attention is energy. So I always look at it this way. You see that Care Bear stare? Choose very wisely who you're going to give that Care Bear stare to. Mixed genre. You lose that title in my eyes when you are unable to meet the requirements of that mother role. But of course, mixed genre. Yes, yes. Bree, honey, we are always on time. We are always on time. Mixed genre says, you're very kind to your mother. Oh, mixed genre. My body says otherwise. My body says, bitch, you unkind to yourself. That's what my body said. My thought may have been, I love my mommy. My body's like, you hate me? Which one's more important? What you're in or what you can see on the outside? So then I say to you that I'm learning these things and using the law to see clearly. That's what I mean when I say my feelings were, I must be nice because I want to be loved and accepted. But the fact was, the only person hurting from that interaction, not just mentally hurting, but physically hurting, IV hurting, was me. So I had to come to the understanding of which be nice and be kind or suffer. So, you see, we have to make a decision because we can't serve two masters. And let me continue reading the chat. Queen Marat, I see you. Cyber says, you wouldn't believe how insanely spot on this talk is. Perfect timing. Everything works according to law. Everything works according to law, Cyber. That is, listen, all I need to do, if I have an unsavory thought, this is why I tell you, practice is so important. Practicing is so important. We must be doers instead of just, oh, I heard. You must be a doer. The doer means you now have, you've come into what when you do? You've come into knowledge when you do, right? Because you've applied the knowledge, which now, sorry, you come into the wisdom of the thing. You're not just heard it through the grapevine. You didn't hear it through the grapevine. You applied it. This is how you know if something works or not. You apply. And now you go from knowledge to wisdom. Always seek wisdom. This is why the scripture can say things like, my people perish for the lack of knowledge. I can't even speak. I get so excited. I fall over my words. My people perish for lack of knowledge. What is knowledge? To know. Because when you know, you apply. When you apply, hey, that's where the change comes. And now you can begin to see that, oh, well, this leopard, she did change her spots. That's what I'm saying to you today. Blah, blah. Master Glam says, I have a friend whose father was never in her life. When she reached out to him 30 years later, he didn't even remember who she was. Oh, snap. But immediately asked to stay with her, fresh out of prison. You see, now this is where I call the audacity. The audacity. You, by way of law, causation, you know the cause, you can predict the effect. When you look at a situation like that, you know exactly how it's going to turn out. Not in your favor. Listen, I had to learn this one the hard way. I did. I wanted to be kind. I wanted to be loving. I wanted to be the dutiful daughter. Yes. But that came at a cost. And fancy this. It didn't just cost me. Who else did it cost? Who had to pay a price? Ah, ha, ha, ha. Yes, the seen yet unseen. That small boy, that wee little boy who's just as tall as me now at 5 feet, looking in my face. Not that tall. See, seen yet unseen. Should be seen and not heard. But I digress. But you see, my actions of wanting to be kind that put me in a bad spot caused something for him. Because let me break it down for you in a way that you'll understand then. If there was no one there for me to help me out, who was there for him when I was not here? But I want to be loved, right? I want my mother to appreciate me. I want my mother to care for me. At whose detriment? This is why we go with facts over feelings. And it's so obvious yet hidden. We want to be loved, but at whose detriment? It wasn't just my own detriment. He had to pay a price also. And that was too high. So then I had to put it into perspective. Yeah, but I digress. Let's read the chat. Well, Master Glam, yes, some people aren't parents. They just have children, right? And yes, it truly is sad. Marjorie, what are you saying here? So is it not possible for us to change our assumption of them, change the inner conversation, or do we have to do that from afar? Let's read it again, Marjorie. So is it not possible for us to change our assumption? There's none but the self to change. You see, sometimes we get caught up and we think we have the power to change another. Every man awakens in their own time, right? If I say, you know what, look, I can just sprinkle holy water. It'll probably evaporate before it gets to you, but I can just sprinkle holy water from way over here. The assumption to change has nothing to do with them. Your assumption is strictly yours. You change your assumption about you. You change your assumption about you. Because I'm going to read your statement again. So is it not possible for us to change our assumption of them? Change our inner conversation. Your inner conversation has to do with you, how you see you, how you view you. Then you change you, all who now, because everybody is you pushed out, correspondence has within, so without. When you change you, it is either they rise so that they can match you, or they fall away to the side. But the focal point is never the assumption of the other. The assumption is always you. How do you want to behave in this situation? How do I want to behave in this situation? That is the assumption. Marjorie, does that make sense to you today? If not, ask again and we'll break it down some more. Maybe like I'm way off in the bushes. Master Glam, it's like you're dying to please them. Literally, Master Glam, literally. But yet we don't. When I say to you how spot on that is, we literally put ourselves in harm's way because we want to be loved and appreciated. If I just love him hard enough, he'll stop beating me. You can't change anybody. Extricate yourself from the situation, though. Because why? Your life depends upon it. And funny thing is, it's not just that it's your life that depends upon it. If you have children, their lives depend upon it. But again, we don't do it because we are lazy or because we're desperate. We do it because that is the seed that is planted. Thus, that is the harvest that must be reaped until you change the seed. That's why we do what we do. The habit must be satisfied. You listen, when I went back to the hospital, then this particular nurse came in. She looked at me, I looked at her, we just laughed because I knew who she was. She knew who I was. And she goes, oh my God, she's like, I was thinking about you. She's like, I was thinking about you the other day. And I was like, stop. Right? I had to play my part in her world. But not only that, it's like, you just, we have to put ourselves first. We're not doing things because we're lazy or because we're desperate. Like I was just about to tell you, she started to hit my hand to get the vein to pop up. And of course, I'm laughing and she is laughing, right? Because you know what happens. You have a habit where you have to have a fix. You don't care. There's only one thing that must be fulfilled, the fix. You do it under compulsion because it is law. So you have to do it. It is law. You conditioned yourself to be addicted to something. You have to fulfill the fix. It is law. That's why you have to replace. If you're going to create a different effect, you've got to have a different cause. You can't say, I'm going to quit drinking. Well, what are you going to do instead? What are you going to do instead? You have to plant a new seed to reap a new harvest. But I digress. Let me read the chat. Whew, worked up. Always, Master Glam. It is always to your own detriment when you try and people please because you want to fit in. I know about that. You want to fit in. You want to be loved. You want to be appreciated. It comes at a cost. The law must always be fulfilled. Everything works according to law. So if you plant the seed of desperation and fear, well, you know exactly what fruit you'll bear. So that's why you take the time to not judge yourself. When you see the harvest coming in, you're like, oh, I'm so ashamed. Okay, you can do that for like 2 seconds. And then you say, all right, I don't like this harvest. I'll reap it for now because it's there. I don't like it. So I'm going to plant new seeds. What's the new action I need to be doing because I want to be over there? What's that new action? And you start to do the new action all day, every day, without complaint, without fail. Why not? Why should you not complain? Because you're the one who said, oh, I don't like that harvest. Oh, it smells. Well, then you have to plant something more fragrant. And it's the fragrance that should keep you planting that particular thing with a better fragrance. Because you know what the stench of desperation is like. Always at your own detriment. In mixed genre, I do like that saying. Dirty water does not stop a plant from growing, but it can influence the fruit. It can influence the fruit, but I hear you. Exactly. You have to throw those things out the window because those are now memories. They're now feelings. Remember the scripture. When I was a child, I behaved like a child. I spake as a child. But when I became a man, I can't help but laugh there. I'm sorry. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. Right? So if you used to say things like, I'm abused, I'm neglected, well, then clearly that was then. What do you want to create now. What do you want to create now? Get out polarity. We like to measure things. So get out polarity and say, from to. That's the distance I got to go. Right? Yes, that's correct. Because you're sovereign. That's why you're not a victim. Because you're sovereign. Mixed genre. You're sovereign. Exactly. You create your own reality to gain experience. Right? You're creating your own reality. And like I say, sometimes that home state that we live in is creating the reality. We're not. That's why habits, they're running in the background and they're creating the experience. And you're like, what is this? Madness, I say. Then you have to examine the seeds planted so that now you don't run on autopilot. You set the course. Don't allow a course to be set for you because it was always done that way. You consciously set the course, but that only comes, you have to make the decision. Well, what is the decision? The decision is, what do you want? Insert parameters. Queen Marat says we can manifest all we dream in and by the law. Yes, listen, everything works according to law. So whether you are manifesting good, bad, or indifferent, hey, you are in alignment with law. You can't be out of alignment. You're always in alignment with the law. Everything works according to law. Good, bad, or indifferent. Where do you want to be? You want to be good? Well, plant good seeds. You're always in alignment. You just are now deciding what kind of seeds you want to plant. What kind of actions do you want to take? Yes, mixed genre. Yes, always. Always. And that's why when Neville says it doesn't matter where you started, you could have started behind the 8 ball. You can work your way by way of law to the upper echelons. That's what he's saying, just like you are. I love that analogy. Indeed. So I trust that makes sense today. I trust it made sense. Did I miss anybody's question? Because I could always see the chat moving, but I didn't know if I went far back enough. If I didn't answer your question, drop it in the chat again. Because I want us to understand that we're on this journey. Dearly beloved, you know where I'm going with this. We get it together to get through this thing called life. Right, Prince? We're supposed to have life and have it more abundantly. That is fact. Not feeling, it is fact. How do you know it's fact? It's spring. Have you seen the blossoms yet? I think we have a lilac bush. I'm not a fan of lilacs because the smell is quite potent, but the bees love it. It's all about the bees. We're in spring now. Blossoms are there. And it doesn't matter where you go. The one thing I loved about Scotland was everybody had a rose bush. Listen, you walk down the street, that's all you're seeing in gardens is rose bushes. Pink roses, white roses, yellow roses. And the smell was incredible. Right? That's the law of rhythm. Springtime. Seed time and harvest. That is rhythm. And you know how you get into alignment with rhythm? Try planting in the winter. Oh, wait, is the ground too hard? Oh, dear. Then now is not a good time to plant. See, everything works according to law. You're the one who has to line up with it. Plant in the spring after May long weekend. That way we're not going to get any more frost. Cyber, I wore victimhood as a badge of honor, revised it, forgive and forget. I don't want them to be in the back of my mind in every instance of success. Exactly. Victories can't revolve around proving them wrong. Hallelujah. Cyber. Exactly. Because if your focus is, I gotta be successful because of them, because you gotta prove a point, what's gonna dictate your every move that you make? That state of victimhood. I couldn't have said it better, Cyber. Mixed genre. Is it a true statement that when people say life is a chess game? Yeah, well, what's that? How they say it? How do they say it? They say, "Ah, oh, life is a game of chess, and you out here in these streets playing checkers." Yeah, it is strategy. You're using the law when you play chess. No, I don't know how to play chess. I'd like to learn because you don't want to know why I'd like to learn to play chess? Because the piece is on the board. The piece is on the board, and just the prestige of playing chess. It just looks like a cool game. But you see how me and mathematics are. I'm more of a word girl, but I would like to learn how to play chess. I really would. I do have a chess set, but when they say move this to here, C4 to what, I'm like, what? That doesn't make any sense. So I've left it alone for now. But I suppose if Henry Cavill was going to teach me how to play chess, I would learn. I digress. Well, Florence Scovel Shinn did say the game of life and how to play it. Right? Now, if you think it's a game, you're always going to be playing. But if you think it is a journey and you're just going somewhere and you want to see the sights and take it all in, well, then that's different. Right? There's a difference between playing a game. There's a winner and there's a loser in a game, is there not? But a journey means, I was just on Mount Kilimanjaro. I was just at the Eiffel Tower. It's just, how many beautiful experiences can you get with a journey versus, oh dear, if I don't play strategically, I'm going to be the loser. Does that make sense? Hello, delicate lace, darling. I see you. We're always on time, honey. We're always on time. We're always on time. Like I say, lots of people say that life is a game. But are those the ones who are winning at it? And that's why they say it's a game? But if you look at it as something to experience, something to share, the game has a winner and a loser, never a tie. But a journey is meant to be shared. You want to go that journey and share it with others. You want to pull a Julie Andrews, the hills are alive. You want to do that, right? You want to share the beauty of what you encounter with others. That is life. It's just a matter of, look at it. What constitutes a game? Have you ever been to a game? There's an MVP, right? There's a star of the game. Yes, delicate lace. Neither do I. I look at it as a journey, something to be experienced and something to share. Quite like a meal. Not for those of us who eat with a spoon, but we don't share if you eat with spoons. Look, it's a Caribbean thing. I grew up eating out of a bowl and a spoon, okay? We did not share. But that's what I'll leave you with. If there's more questions, you can slide into my DMs or you can yeah. I'm reading your comment here, Delicate Lace. All the people I'm sick of always saying gang and in the hood. Yeah, but that's it, right? Do you notice how you just said it? Hood mentality. What is it? It's the mentality, and the mentality dictates the behavior. So if you can, this is the scripture again, you can be in the world but not of it, based upon if you're a child and you're in a particular place that is deemed hood. The mentality, if your mentality is not of the hood, you're just passing through. Yes, you're just passing through. But always remember, the mentality is what will dictate the words that come out of your mouth and the behaviors that you do. What is it? Why is it mentality? Because the all is mind. The universe is a mental creation. Listen, I'm governed by law just like you, right? So this is why we have to pay attention and we see it, and you're like, oh, but I'm in the hood, I'm in the ghetto. Like you could be living there physically because you're passing through. Billy Carson started out in the hood, but you know what? He looked out the window and said, this is not the life for me. But because he was a child under his parents' governance, he had to wait until he became majority age to leave. So that's what I mean by passing through. You can be in it, but you don't have to be of it, of here, of your mentality. Why do bad things happen to... Let's sum it up again. I'm going to read Delicate Lace. She says she's labeled as childish when she speaks the truth, and you don't live the way these people talk. Or, yes, but out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. That's who they are. But if you keep elevating yourself, sooner rather than later, you will have to leave the surroundings because it is no longer a match to your mentality. Right? Yeah, but because you grew up there doesn't mean that's who you are, right? You have a mind. You have a mind. And if you elevate it, you can go beyond any hood, any ghetto. You can go beyond anything. Mixed genre. So why do bad things happen to good people? There's neither good nor bad. There's simply the mentality. It is simply the mentality that is running you. That's why good things or bad things happen. It is simply because you can be a good person, but when you look in the, what constitutes a good person? A good person is, oh, you give to the poor, you help everybody out, blah, blah, blah. But what if, okay, yeah, so you're a good person. You don't break the law. You like man's law. You don't speed. You don't beat up widows and steal purses. You don't rob stores. You don't do any of that. So yes, you're a good person. But what if you're looking in the mirror and you say to yourself, my life sucks. I feel so stuck. Like, why can't I change? Why does nobody care about me? You're going to end up in a situation that what? Confirms what you feel on the inside. It's not whether you're good or bad. What matters is what's going on here. What's being projected outward is what determines your experience. Delicate Lace. Bad things happen to me because how I look with vitiligo. I'm sure we've heard the name Winnie Harlow. And you say you're invisible. I can understand. I can understand. Vicariously, I can understand. Not because I've experienced it, but because I understand. Because we judge or we fear what we don't understand as people. And so, what have you done to, what have you done? You see, because if you What have you done to change your mind? You have to understand, again, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. If someone is looking at you, you have vitiligo, and they're looking at you and they're like, oh my God. If they're looking at you and they're doing that, is that a reflection of you? Or is that a reflection of them? The law of correspondence, as within, so without. They're the ones judging you because they judge themselves. I'm reading what you say here. Feeling completely outside of things, not belonging, not one of the group, says mixed genre. And Delicate Lace, yes, even none of the vitiligo people like me either. So let me ask you this. Do you like you? It's a very valid question, because as within, so without. Because I presume after years of judgment, right? After years of judgment, your natural thing to do is to judge you. Nobody had to come and tell you you don't fit in. Nobody said it. Then continue to love yourself. This is all you can do. If that is what you're doing, then you have to continue loving you and recognizing that people can only treat you the way they treat themselves. There was some, there was a newscaster, a man, he had vitiligo as well. And he finally stopped wearing makeup to cover it. He finally stopped hiding, he said. Right? Mixed genre. Oh, snap. I was just about to suggest that. Ooh, same wavelength. Illness, however mild or severe, is an indicator of your emotional state caused by your thoughts and focus, according to Louise Hay. What does that sound like? Correspondence. Yes, it is the book You Can Heal Your Life. Well, now, here's... We're going to deal with this right now, right? We're going to deal with it right now. Because this is why I say compassion and empathy are required at all times. Delicate Lace is going through this situation. We are on the outside observing. She says to me, but I love myself, Angela. Louise Hay says, there has to be a shortcoming within you. Now, it is not a place to judge what was said by Louise Hay, whether she is right or wrong. It is always an examination of you. Because perhaps, like, some habits, yes? All habits. They're so obvious, but they're hidden. If you keep encountering a particular type of person, if you keep facts over feelings every time, I have to put these into the correct words so that they are understood and felt. Facts over feelings every time. How do you know, Delicate Lace, that you are not? That you're on the outside looking in? How do you know that you're not accepted anywhere? How do you know that? I'm asking for a reason, because when we get to the root of it, the root cause of it, today we're not going to judge ourselves anymore. Right? Because I'm going back through I'm going back to what you said. Bad things happen to me because of how I look with vitiligo. I'm actually invisible. None of the vitiligo people like me either. It's like this everywhere. right? That is a consistent effect. It is like this everywhere. It is a consistent thing. I just saw what you said, mix. I mean, delicate lace. I just saw what you said. Nobody calls me. No one checks on me. No one supports me in anything. Look at the root of that. The root of that is abandonment. The root is abandonment. What else would you call it? If you can say clearly, well, I can say the same thing. Nobody calls check on me. That's abandonment. It's abandonment. And delicate lace, my phone just said 20%. So right. I just got used to being treated badly. You got used to it. It is in that getting used to it. Okay, I'm hearing what you're saying. The getting used to it is now the umbrella that you walk under. You just expect that. What if what if you, I don't like putting people on the spot because sometimes it's hard because we're so in a community of blame and guilt and there's none of that here. It is an understanding that needs to happen. The understanding is based upon the evidence of your words. I got used to being treated badly. That is the habit. And because that habit is there, I want you to see what seed was planted in you. The seed, that was planted in you, right? Because other people projected onto you by treating you poorly, treating you badly. So the seed was, you know what? This is just my lot in life, perhaps. I'm gonna just accept it. That's not yours. That is not your seed. That seed was planted in the fertile soil of your mind by way of the actions of others who judged. You have to understand the mentality in the hood, right? Judge. Oh, so you're different. Oh. And so they come at you like that. And being a youngster, because it didn't just start yesterday, being a youngster and being treated that way, that seed of acceptance of, well, I look this way, thus I am treated this way. That's the seed. That is the only fruit it can bear until you change that concept of, I don't deserve to be treated that way. That's their projection. That's their seed. This is the body I have. This is me. And they don't like it because they don't like themselves. That is what you accept. Because now that will change the whole dynamic wherever you go. But so long as we accept, well, you know, I was always treated like this. Yes, because I was always treated a particular way, does not mean you have to remain being treated in that particular way. And the only way to change that, exactly, so you've come to accept their behavior towards you. And because you accept it, you now can predict what's going to happen every time you go somewhere. So now there's a level of audacity that is required. Because when you understand that people with garbage on the inside can only spew garbage, yeah? So anybody who laughs at you is busy judging themselves. It has nothing to do with you. It's not you. So I agree with you when you said to me, it's not me, Angela. You're right, Delicate Lace. It's not you. But you have taken it on like it is by accepting being used to be treated that way. That's why. So today, you no longer accept it. Do you know why you no longer accept it? Because you know where it's coming from. It's not yours. How can you? That's like me saying, oh, I made chocolate chip cookies and I have it in a brown paper bag for you. When in actuality, it's poop in a bag. Do not allow people to put poop in a bag and tell you it's chocolate chip cookies. Because it's not. That's what you did. Oh, was that harsh? They projected their judgment onto you. Every time they made fun of you, it showed you who they were. But the minute you just accept the resolve that this is the way life is and I will just accept it, you ran with it. Not because you wanted to, but that's the way the mind works. It works by repetition and strong emotion. Yeah, that's the way the mind works. That's how you were programmed. Every time they laughed, repetition and the emotion because it hurt you. See, that's how your mind was programmed. And so you just said, fine, this is the way it is then. And you accepted it. But it's not yours. It's not yours. That's not what you actually believe of yourself. So continue believing in yourself, in the fact that this body is your vehicle. And continue to remember the law of correspondence. As within me, so must the world conform on the outside. So if you say, I am beautiful, not because Angela said I'm beautiful. I've never met you. How can I tell you that you're beautiful? Because the law only makes beauty. The law only makes beauty, and the law only makes abundance. That's how come I can say what I say. I'm giving you fact, not feelings. So when you start to say, when you fall asleep and you feel in your heart of hearts, oh, I'm glad I know the law. And you start to fall asleep like that, I will tell you this. You see, all of those people, they will fall away to the wayside like scabs that have been healed. That's what happens to scabs. When the stuff underneath it has healed, the scab falls off. You don't even notice. You're like, hey, look at that. You don't have to do anything to them. The assumption of yourself will suffice because it is you who says who you are. But right now, because you've accepted what they've done, it goes according to law. You have to keep recreating it. And it's not yours. You see how we pick up things in life? And we start living them out. And we're like, whoa, I'm doing everything to change. Why is my life still this way? Because of something that is obvious yet hidden. And Delicate Lace, today is the day you will start looking in the mirror into your own eyes. Why would you do that? Because when you look into the mirror, into your own eyes, one of two things will happen. You will see who you are and you'll be intrigued and want to know more, or it'll scare you. You see, when you look in the mirror and you look into your eyes, who is seeing the reflection in the mirror. That is you. So today is a brand new day, delicate ladies. Look in the mirror. As within, so without. If you can't even look in the mirror into your beautiful eyes to see your own reflection, how can someone else? Not because they're mean or cruel, but as within, so without. Does that make sense, delicate ladies? I've always known there was something, because I've met you in a chat previously, maybe like a year ago. And I've always known you were special. Always. I've never seen you. I've never seen a picture of you, so I can't say what you look like. I just know based upon the interaction I've had with you in the past that you are special. And I'm reading what you say here. You have grown and you're doing so much to bring positive things into your life. Then you have to continue the trajectory of that. And that also involves looking yourself in the mirror, in your eyes. That's what you're looking for. You're looking in the mirror in your eyes because the reflection is being seen. You think your eyes are seeing your reflection, your hair, your makeup. It's not your eyes. Who is behind your eyes, delicate lace? That's who you got to look at. Oh, you got to use those same eyes to look for the one looking out of your eyes. That's what I will say to you today. And my LINKTREE link is there. If you want to email me, just email me and we'll start talking. We'll start communicating. Because I trust it made sense for you. I trust it made sense so you could see the hidden thing that was there. You can, when you rest on it, you can, I'm just busy reading the chat. If you take time and rest on it for a bit, if that makes sense to you, if that, rings true for you, let me know. Let me know. That's what I'll say. Mixed genre, you are awesome. Yes, that is a phenomenal book. It truly, truly is a phenomenal book. Maybe I should narrate that one. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, delicate lace, hit me up and let me know. And we'll take it from there, because sometimes that extra pair of eyes is helpful. Oh, look, low power mode. Y'all, we got 10%. So this is where I will leave you. Oh my God, almost 2 hours. What's wrong? Yikes. Sometimes when things get so whatever they get, you have to go with that flow until you feel the ebb. And when the ebb comes, you stop. I have it, mixed genre. I have that book, but I will have to pull it out from, I will have to extricate that book from its prison and do it. I will leave you all with that. Thank you so very much for being here this lovely afternoon and spending time with me. And I trust that if you have more questions, you know where to find me. You can DM me, right? Hit the link up in my LINKTREE, mixed genre, and let me know. I look forward to seeing you again. Much love, my beautiful friends. Much love.